One of the biggest advantages you can give yourself in fantasy football is making sure you stay ahead of your league mates on the waiver wire, stashing those handcuffed running backs before your league mates can get to them, stashing those high upside rookie wide receivers before your league mates can get to them. Today, we're going to help you do exactly that. My name is Lucas Wencl here with FantasyPros, bringing you my top 5 waiver wire stashes ahead of week 6 and next week's waiver run as well. Before we dive on into that list, though, we've got a special deal going on for you all. Unlock a month of Betting Pros Premium for free. Download the Betting Pros app today and use promo code FP1month. Get access to tools like the Same Game Parlay tool, the Prop Bet Analyzer, and the Prize Picks Prop Bet Cheat Sheet. Don't miss out on it. Try it free for 1 month now. It's available both on iOS and Android. Starting off our list this week is Cleveland Browns wide receiver Isaiah Bond, who is rostered in 21% of leagues. Sometimes in fantasy football, we don't need to make following trends more difficult than it actually is. Through the first 5 weeks, Isaiah Bond has seen his targets increase from 1 to 3, 4, and over the last 2 weeks, 6 and 7 targets each. His snap share has gone up 28%, 38%, 65%, back down to 55%, but back up to 57% in week 5. And his route percentage, 23% in week 1, up to 39%, 58%, and now the last 2 weeks, 71% and 86%, a season high. There was only 3 times where Isaiah Bond didn't run a route for a drop back. I'm not out here like dancing in the streets about the Cleveland offense, obviously, but if Cedric Tillman is going to be on IR for the next handful of weeks with a hamstring injury, and Isaiah Bond is going to be the one playing wide receiver 2 for this team, I'm at least somewhat interested if he's going to be this involved. And I say wide receiver 2 for this team from a usage perspective, but Bond has also been outproducing Jerry Jeudy over the last 3 weeks. Jeudy has caught 6 of 19 targets for only 80 yards, yet Isaiah Bond has caught 7 to 17 targets, both less than 50%, not ideal, but he's still gone for 103 yards. Again, my point here isn't that Isaiah Bond is some like hidden stud in plain sight, but if you're rostering Jerry Jeudy and considering him in your flex spot most weeks, let's say, like Isaiah Bond might actually be the better play in half PPR formats right now. The last thing I want to make sure we do remember, right? Isaiah Bond isn't this just like out of left field. Where did he come from? Like he was projected to be a second round pick in the NFL draft this year and only went undrafted because of off-field issues that existed during the draft process. He has great acceleration and top speed. He's a fluid route runner with great hands. And multiple respectable draft analysts mentioned seeing shades of Jalen Waddle within his game. So this Cleveland Browns offense, it's young. They're still putting all the pieces together, but Isaiah Bond is involved in that process right now, and he's a top stash candidate for me. The second stash candidate this week is Tory Horton, Seattle Seahawks wide receiver, who is rostered in 16% of leagues. Tory Horton was another solid prospect coming out of Colorado State this year. Great ball tracking ability and build-up speed to get downfield. Great inside and outside versatility at Colorado State to help win at all 3 levels. So the fit in Seattle here made sense, right? Especially if he was going to overtake an aging, starting to look washed up Cooper Kupp as the wide receiver 2 in this offense. The problem here, though, is that that's not actually happening as quickly as we expected because Cooper Kupp is he's still playing decent enough football thus far. But Tory Horton has been playing good football himself, too. He's had a nose for the red zone. 4 touchdowns in 5 games. 3 of those were receiving. He did have a punt return touchdown as well. He actually has a 33% receiving touchdown market share for the team. That's the same as Drake London. Good company to be in. And his average depth of target has been a very, very healthy 13.9 yards. He's being targeted on 20% of his routes as well, which again, very, very healthy number for a rookie wide receiver. While you also could look at Tory Horton's stats and say, hey, look, he's 100% getting boosted by touchdowns. I just think there's so much more room for upside here, especially after the Seahawks bye week in week 9. Coming back in week 10, they get the Commanders, the Cardinals, the Rams, and the Titans, all of which can be exploited in the secondary. I also don't think it's just like an outright quote unquote bad thing for Tory Horton to be touchdown dependent at this point in his career, because we could continue to see him score at this rate. Like if we continue to see that, it could become a trend like we've seen from a Jordan Addison who, there's no possible way he could sustain a 10% touchdown rate, yet he's continued to do it in 2 consecutive years, and he's already made his mark on the 2025 season as well. So I would say we should get Tory Horton stashed now, because even though we have 2 weeks until his bye, the bump afterwards I think could bring him even more value. The third player on our list this week is Jalen Coker, Carolina Panthers wide receiver, who is rostered in 15% of leagues. Jalen Coker has been on this list before, and now that he's designated to come off of IR, this is going to be your last chance to scoop him up before your league mates do. The Panthers need to do something else if they want to be more functional in the passing attack outside of Teteroa McMillan, who, don't get me wrong, he is really, really good. Looked every bit the part. But if the Panthers want to win more football games, they have to create more explosives in the passing attack. I think Jalen Coker is going to help with exactly that, because prior to picking up a quad injury before the season started, the Panthers were ready to hand him the slot role on a silver platter for this offense. They drafted T-Mac to play the X role in this offense, which again, he's been doing exceptionally well. They traded their previous slot, Adam Thielen, to the Minnesota Vikings, opening up the pathway. And Xavier Legette played better as a flanker last year so he was so he was never going to take that spot. When Jalen Coker did play in the slot last year, he ran 2.65 yards per route on the targets he earned. That was 7th best, behind respectable names like Puka Nacua, Brian Thomas Jr., Terry McLaurin. Despite drawing 45 less targets than Legette did from the slot last year, Coker still gained 135 more yards than Xavier Legette did. At this point, to me, we have a large enough sample size with Xavier Legette to know that he's just far better off playing a supplemental role within this offense rather than a pseudo Robin to T-Mac's Batman. But I actually think Jalen Coker might be able to play more of that Robin-esque role going forward. At the time of this recording, it's not 100% clear if Jalen Coker suits up against the Cowboys this week, but considering he has logged full practices, I do think this is your last chance to grab Jalen Coker before your league mates finally catch on. Oh, he's back, and he could be a big deal. Another rookie on our list this week is Chicago Bears running back Kyle Monangai, who is rostered in 10% of leagues. It wouldn't be shocking to me at all if coming out of the bye, we do get more of a Ben Johnson typical split in the Chicago Bears backfield. Not necessarily to the full extent of Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, but also let's not pretend that DeAndre Swift has really been anything special this year. Going into the bye, he had 2 straight games with less than 40 rushing yards, and those were 2 very good spots against the Dallas Cowboys and the Las Vegas Raiders. He's averaged less than 3.2 yards per carry in 3 of 4 games this year, and DeAndre Swift is averaging an abysmal negative 0.39 rushing yards over expected per carry. The Bears can come out of their bye week saying they're 2-2, feeling good about being on a 2-win streak, but the running game hasn't been there. They are bottom 3 in EPA per rush on offense at negative 0.15. They're expected to gain less points when they run the football. So if you're Ben Johnson coming out of the bye, recognizing something needs to change in the run game, you might as well give Kyle Monangai some more run here. Clearly, DeAndre Swift isn't cutting it, which, shocking, DeAndre Swift was also dead last in rushing yards over expected per carry last year as well. Kyle Monangai is a tough runner. He absorbs contact. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him getting double-digit opportunities fairly quickly coming out of the bye, especially with such a soft schedule for the running back position. They get the Commanders, the Saints, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Giants, and the Vikings, all of which have been abysmal against the run to start the season. So I would say get Kyle Monangai stashed, because once he outperforms DeAndre Swift, it's already going to be way too late. The last player on our list this week is another Chicago Bears wide receiver. It's tight end Colston Loveland, who is rostered in 29% of leagues. And look, I get why people were willing to bail so quickly on Colston Loveland. He only has 6 targets through 3 games, and he was surrendering snaps to Cole Kmet before actually picking up a hip injury in week 3. But it was always going to take time for Colston Loveland to be integrated into Ben Johnson's offense in Chicago, right? I know we all wanted the rookie season Sam Laporta, but this team had to implement a brand new offensive system. They had to focus on Caleb Williams' development. Ben Johnson really needed to help this team get back to doing the simple things very, very well after the mess that Shane Waldron made out of this team last season. There's just more practical hoops to jump through before we get that Colston Loveland breakout that we're all desperately waiting for. The other reason I'm okay stashing Colston Loveland and willing to be patient is because when we did see Kmet play as the primary tight end in week 4 against the Raiders, He only caught 3 of his team high 9 targets with a negative 30.5% catch rate over expected. Negative 30.5 over expected. So really less than expected. Again, coming out of a bye week, I have to imagine Ben Johnson considered that and came up with a solution, a rather simple solution. Maybe we should just get our top 10 pick in the 2025 NFL draft more opportunities to make plays within this offense. I don't think that's a crazy thing to think. I know we're at the top of like the 30% threshold here that I typically use for these stash videos, but if Loveland is out there and someone's thrown in the towel on him, I'm okay stashing him if I have an extra bench spot in my league because he truly was a top 15 prospect coming out of the 2025 NFL draft. And there you have it, my top 5 waiver wire stashes ahead of week 6. Go sprint to the waiver wire like right now. Make sure that none of these guys are available in your league because they all should be rostered in well more than 30% of leagues, even though they're all rostered in less than 30% of leagues currently. Before we sign off here, though, remember, we have got a special deal going on for you all. Unlock a month of Betting Pros Premium for free. You can download the Betting Pros app today and use promo code FP1month. Get access to tools like the Same Game Parlay tool, the Prop Bet Analyzer, and the Prize Picks Prop Bet Cheat Sheet. Don't miss out. Try it free, 100% free, for 1 month now. Available both on iOS and Android.